Hello and welcome back to the Content Bite. Our aim is to help writers of all kinds create a thriving business and a career that they love. I'm Rachel Smith, a journalist, copywriter and content producer and the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for freelancers. And I'm here with my co-host Lynn Testoni. Hello again, Lynn.
Hi again, Rachel. My name is Lynn Testoni and I'm also a content creator, writer and journalist. And today's episode is all about how journalists can reinvent themselves. We've got a great special guest today, Jane Jackson. So I think this last year there's brought a lot of uncertainty into media, but probably uncertainty everywhere if we're going to be honest.
I think so.
And both Rachel and I have known quite a few of our former colleagues who've moved on to different careers in adjacent industries or totally new careers. And there's so many things to do, but that change can be a bit intimidating. So we asked Jane to come on today. She's a career coach and to talk about making that step and what to think about before you do. So I'm going to read a little bit of information about Jane as background. So Jane is a career management coach. She's a LinkedIn Top Voice 2020, founder of the Careers Academy membership portal, host of Your Career podcast, and author of the Amazon bestseller Navigating Career Crossroads. And over the past 20 years, Jane has coached thousands of career changers, empowering them to make a successful transition and creating their dream career. She's a career confidence coach, a personal branding specialist for job seekers, and a LinkedIn trainer. Before becoming a career coach, she worked in public relations in Hong Kong, British Airways in London, and set up a personal training business in Singapore. And she was sponsored by Nike to promote total body conditioning. Wow, that's great. Before transitioning back to corporate life in training and coaching in Singapore and Sydney. She's lived in Hong Kong, London, San Francisco, Singapore, but currently she lives in Sydney. And her mission is to make career guidance accessible and affordable for all who need it globally. Oh, my goodness.
Wow. Thanks, Jane. I definitely didn't know that about the personal training business, although I do know a lot about you. Welcome to the Content Bite. It is so great to finally have you on because, as I mentioned, we've been wanting to have you on for ages. So thanks so much for coming on the episode.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm just very excited to be here and to have a good chat because I love to talk about all things careers, as you know. And I've had so many career changes, massive career. I don't want to say the word pivot, but they have been massive career transitions into different industries and different job functions. And if I can do it, you can do it. Everybody can do it. It just, you've got to know what to do and the steps to take. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Look, it's so interesting. I know this isn't the first time that you and I have sort of collaborated. I was actually on the Your Career podcast, but I couldn't remember if that was last year or the year before. I don't know if you remember. I just remember it was a great experience and I loved getting the chance to talk about all the twists and turns of my career journey. That's what.
Yeah, it was actually 2 years ago, I believe, because it was episode 188
Oh my God.
of Your Career podcast. And now I'm up to episode 210 that I just released 2 days ago. So, the good thing about Your Career podcast is that we have people like you on who have had fascinating career journeys. And I just love sharing inspirational stories because it gives people who are feeling a bit stuck a few new ideas because everyone does things, they do things differently. So thanks for sharing your story. It was a popular episode, Rachel.
Yeah, it was really good to do that actually. And I know that we also collaborated a while ago on a retrenchment post, which appeared on the Rachel's List blog. So we'll pop that into the show notes. It's got lots of fantastic advice from Jane. But I follow you on LinkedIn. Obviously, we're very connected on there. And I've just always been so impressed by your presence on there and just how inclusive and generous you are with all your knowledge and how you share so much from other people in your network. And I think that's just you as a person. But do you think it helps with your own marketing and with your own visibility for your own business as well? Is that really essential? We should all be doing that kind of thing.
Well, I firmly believe that you get what you give, basically. And, I'm on a mission, as you mentioned in the intro, that there's a good reason why I want to make careers guidance accessible and affordable to everybody who needs it. And it's because, I really didn't know what to do in my career in the early days, and I had no guidance. You know, my father died when I was 11. My mother, being Hong Kong Chinese, she didn't speak any English. We all spoke Cantonese at home. So when Dad died, I didn't have any guidance, and I bumbled along for a long time. And you know, I even thought about being a journalist at one stage. It would have been wonderful. Trained as a graphic designer instead, but I'm so bad at it that I find I can talk better than I can design. But it's because it took me so long to become who I believe I really was meant to be, and I know the process so well now. It took me 20 years to figure it out. I don't want people to have to take so long to figure out what they can be too, because we all want it now, don't we? So what can you do now to help someone to create a new career if they've gone through a redundancy, or if they're, you know, fed up with what they're doing now and they want to do something different, or if their circumstances are such that they've been affected due to COVID and they just don't know what to do because there haven't been as many jobs because of the pandemic. So LinkedIn is somewhere where I can help people, and I love it that I can do that. But also, it's very good for marketing. 93% of recruiters and hiring managers use LinkedIn as their first point of contact when they're sourcing for candidates. And I mean, it's not a resume database. Some people think it is, but LinkedIn originally started because it was for job seekers. Now it's very good for business to business marketing and business to consumer marketing as well. So that's my platform where I spend the most of my time of all the other digital platforms where I do have a presence, but the return on investment is great on LinkedIn, especially if you're looking for a job and you want to build your brand as a professional in your field.
I love that. I mean, you mentioned the pandemic earlier. What are some of the things you're seeing, you know, come out of that with job seekers, perhaps that you weren't seeing before?
Yeah, I think a lot of job seekers, the people that I've been working with, because so many people's jobs have been affected, so there's been quite a bit of outplacement coaching that's been coming my way the past year, is that people are really reassessing what's important to them. It's not just a job anymore. I think because so many people have really struggled with, you know, the isolation that they felt, and if they'd have to work from home anyway, and even if people are in jobs, they have to work from home and they feel isolated, and they start to question the meaning of life in a way, and I found that so many of my clients are now looking for greater meaning in what they do next. So it's not just a job. It's not just, oh, I want to be an investment banker and make pots of money, you know, or you know, I want a job for life because there isn't one. They're really thinking, what can I do that's going to be more meaningful, that is going to make me happy, and yet I can still earn a living. But the money has not become the be all and end all. The meaning has really come out, and working remotely has been embraced by so many businesses now that it sounds counterintuitive, but it's actually created more opportunities, because companies are more willing to discuss flexible working arrangements, which is what so many of us want.
Oh, that's exciting.
Mm.
Do you think, do you see a lot of what we call refugees from the media industry? It's been through sort of like years of decline, and I think COVID has sort of sped up some of that.
Mhm.
What sort of opportunities do you see for journalists out there who want to use their skills in a new sideways career or a different industry?
Yeah, it's so tough, isn't it? Because I found with journalists, you do it because it's your passion. You know,
Yeah.
you get into journalism because, you know, you want to get to the heart of the story and you like the truth and you want to report, you know, good things and actually make a difference in the world. So I found with the journalists I've met, being a journalist is not a job. It really is their life. So when something changes, and I've worked with lots of people, you know, who've come out of, you know, like the Sydney Morning Herald and various places over the years, because there's been a lot of downsizing. A lot of
Yeah.
offshoring has affected jobs and affected quality too in many cases. And so, you know, I've worked with editors and sub-editors and copywriters and journalists, and almost all of them have said, you know, what else could I do? You know, I mean, this is what I don't want to do anything else. And that's the challenge, is because when you love what you do so much, having to make a change, you feel quite resentful. But in today's day and age, we have to accept what is a reality. And okay, I'm really qualified. I love what I do, but I'm not getting enough freelance work, or I'm not able to get another what they call permanent full-time. What's permanent these days anyway? But say a full-time role back where I would love to be, in a magazine or in a newspaper. Or even on the radio, because the jobs are now far and few between. You need to think, what else can I do? What are the transferable skills I've got that will make a business take notice of what I've got? And some of the obvious things are obviously is like working in public relations or corporate communications, working in a marketing function, anything where the written word, the story, is important. And the beauty of journalists is that you write well and you speak well and your grammar is perfect, right? And that's difficult to find so often. And to have people who are literate and intelligent and questioning, and with a good attitude. Attitude is everything, okay? Everything on top of everything else. There is that potential to be able to move into a new area. Have you heard of the 9 square model of change?
No.
Yeah.
Take us through that.
Yeah, this is interesting. Maybe I'll give you a diagram of it to put in your show notes. But it's now, if you imagine like a matrix, like noughts and crosses, noughts and crosses, and so there are 9 squares. And so down in the bottom left, there is same job, same industry. Okay. Then right on the top right is different job, different industry. So that's like polar opposites. And then say across the bottom, it's same job, similar industry, same job, different industry. And then going up the side, it's going to be, now I always get myself a bit confused here. It's going to be similar job, similar industry. Is it same job, same? Oh, no, same job, similar industry, same job, different industry. And then as you go, towards that polar opposite, there are all the different permutations there. And so the easiest way to make a career change and to get another job is, of course, same job, same industry. But if that industry is shrinking, there aren't that many jobs. So then you need to think about a similar job or a similar industry. And so if you can make a little bit of, don't change everything, don't change industry and job function completely, because that requires retraining, a lot of convincing, and a recruiter is not going to touch you. Okay, because a recruiter likes to put like with like. So if you worked in this industry and this sort of job function before, yes, I will call you in for an interview. But if it's, I'm thinking of making a pivot in my career, they won't help you. If you want to make a change, it really is going to be your network. And then you need to develop your networking skills. But I'll give an example. I was working with one client and she worked in the fashion industry as a stylist, and she was not happy where she was. And she thought it was the industry that she didn't like so much, but really it was just the culture of the place where she was and a little bit of the job function that she wasn't keen on. But she thought she just hated everything. And so we got a bit of clarity with her. And I said, look, I know you, and she wanted to get into human resources instead of styling, and she wanted it in a completely different industry because she was really quite jaded. And I said, okay, we're going to have a good think about this, but you understand the fashion industry inside out. You've been in it for a long time. You don't like styling. You don't like this culture. So don't throw the baby out of, with the bathwater. The industry is something that you were drawn towards for a very, very long time. It actually is a good industry to be in, and it's interesting and it's exciting. You want to get into a different job function. Let's just change that one thing, because moving into HR, say if you make a transition, and not straight into like HR manager or HR assistant, but make a transition, say, into recruitment, talent acquisition within the fashion industry, that makes sense because you understand the type of people that you need. You know what it takes to be a stylist. You know what it takes to work well within a team. So you've got those transferable skills. So that's an example. If you use the 9 square model of change and you think, what do I need to change? Let's make baby steps, little changes, rather than a whole, oh, I'm going to jump into something completely different. And you've got no transferable skills to back it up.
You may have a fairly unrealistic expectation about a different industry as well. So you sort of don't like your job because of all the politics or the bureaucracy or the paperwork, and go to another industry, find out they also have politics, bureaucracy and paperwork.
Exactly.
And that is the problem when you go to a totally different industry, that you don't get a good understanding
There's
as much
no
as if you're in it.
nirvana. Yeah, there's no nirvana. The grass is not always greener on the other side. The only thing you can do is you can create your own reality. And like say if you decide to move into, say, setting up your own business, then you can run it your own way, right? But it really depends on how well prepared you are, because setting up your own business is not easy, and you've got to understand marketing and sales and the numbers and the whole shebang. And I've been running my own private coaching practice now for 20 years. And I'd really say it's been the last maybe eight years. I mean, it took a long time, long burn, but it seems like, I'm at where I'm very happy now. But it took me a long time to get there. It was so much hard work, so much learning, so much marketing and developing relationships and, coaching people and training. And there's a lot to do when you run your own business, and not everybody is up to it or is passionate about it. But if you are passionate about it, and I don't like to bandy around the word passion, but desire, if you have a desire to make something work, you will. You put in the hard yards, and if you don't mind hard work, then you'll be successful.
I totally agree. I actually think that you need to be a certain type of person to run your own business, which is something I think we discussed on your podcast, Jane. And some people do want to be, at an organisation, get a paycheck, not have to think about the hustle and invoicing and chasing the next job and all of that. So it is something really to consider about. But that's so interesting, that 9 square model of change. And I think it really made me think about how, well, I know Lynn and I particularly had to move very much from writing just for magazines to move into content marketing. And, we do so much different stuff now than we did 5 or 10 years ago. Completely different, really. I would say magazine writing is a very small part of what I do now. So it's kind of that adjacent, using your skills, but moving sideways, I suppose, into other ways.
And I find going from the magazines into the corporate world, or doing more content marketing, you're using your contacts and those that you've made in magazines and your knowledge, and I've taken that to write about the same sort of things that I used to write in magazines. So I think I see so the industry it's not technically media, but there's something about the niche that I've taken those transferable skills. And I think those contacts that you have, even though, that's made a difference. And I can see, I love the idea of that sort of 9 squares. I'm gonna have a look at that. It makes people think it's very practical.
Absolutely.
It's because the thing is that if you've got a method to assess what you're going to do next, you take all that emotion out of it, and you just think you need to set a strategy. So what's my strategy? What am I going to try? And so if you've got maybe 3 different options to explore, and just think of it as exploration, so that you can make the right choices. Now, there's the other side of the coin where maybe you need to get the money coming in immediately. So we all got to eat, right? And so you might think, okay, while I'm exploring what will be ideal for me to transition into, where am I going to get the money to pay my rent? And so you might need to just bite the bullet and think, okay, I'm going to take maybe a retail job, or I'm going to take a temporary a role just to get some money coming in. And even if it is I don't know, stacking shelves at Woolies or whatever, or doing some market research over the phone for a company, it's at least you've got some money coming in, and while you're doing that, you're not spending. Because I find that when you're not working, you tend to spend money. And during COVID, online shopping became a little bit too easy. That's
That's
Yes.
true.
that's changed, doesn't it? But if you're
Yes.
doing something that is bringing in some money, I mean, it might not be as much as you would like, but it's bringing in some money, then at least you've got that bread and butter so that you can pay some bills. Then concurrent with that, to really beef up your resume, because of course you need a resume, you need to know how to write cover letters, you have to be on LinkedIn, because that's where hiring managers and recruiters will be looking for you. You need to optimize your LinkedIn profile for search and have the right keywords, but you can't create a good profile until you know what you're targeting. So LinkedIn needs to be aspirational. So you write it not for ancient history. Of course, you keep your work experience in there, but the about section in particular is aspirational. You have to tell people the story of what are the problems that you can solve. Why would they consider talking to you for this completely different thing that you might be exploring? And once you've done the self-assessment so that you know what you have to offer, what makes you tick, and what you've got to offer, then you can work that into your about section and create that narrative. And because we're talking to journalists here, you know how to write. Yes. And so you'll be able to tell a story with authenticity, but not just have a static LinkedIn profile. Leverage your content creation abilities to be able to share content like I do. You know, I write articles, I write posts, I create memes. I have a newsletter on LinkedIn at the moment, and I find that it generates a lot of interaction. And you know, people who are experiencing some angst, they'll go, "Oh, that really helped," and then that makes me feel good. That's one thing, is makes me feel good. The second thing is it builds more awareness of what the problems are that I can solve. So for you as a journalist, if that's what you're thinking about, let people know what are the problems that you can solve, and then you'll make yourself more marketable.
It's really
So,
interesting.
so some of this, it can be quite a tough and a lengthy process. How do you advise people keep their spirits up? Because I think, you know, making a career change is intimidating and it won't happen overnight and there is no nirvana. So how do we work into it to keep your spirits up so you don't lose hope and you keep moving forward? What's a good strategy there?
Well, when you're working, you have a schedule, right? You've got a structure to your day. And I think the hardest thing and this is what I've experienced with my clients, the hardest thing for them is not having a structure, because suddenly they're twiddling their thumbs and they think, oh, I'll just walk the dog again, or I might just go to the beach and fiddle about for 3 hours. Or, there's even the ironing, when you have to, if you think you're in sales now, when you're looking for a job, you're in sales. People hate making sales calls. Journalists are not salespeople. And so it's a different skill set that you need to develop. And I don't like sales either. This is why I do marketing. I love marketing, and then the sale is easier. And so I don't need to make cold calls and things like that. But, if you don't like the sales process, the ironing is going to look very appealing at any time. Okay, because you just procrastinate. Yeah, so you need to, in order to keep your spirits up, first of all, set a schedule, but don't make it such an arduous schedule that you're working on the job search 8 hours a day, because you'll burn out. Give yourself maybe 2 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, have an hour for lunch, meet a friend, clear your head, go for a walk, do whatever it is that you like, and then get back to it, because then you'll be fresh. And that way, if you set a structure for yourself, you've got routine. Human beings, we like routine. And when you're in your routine, you are working. I'm going to work now on my job search. And so that's what you do. And you know that whatever you're working on, it's not always immediate. You might write an article and you're all excited about it, and it doesn't get published for like 2-3 months. Yes. So there's a lead time or lag time before you reap the results of all the work that you do. So if you set yourself a schedule, work into it, meet friends, talk to family time, as well as exercise time, because you know that helps to alleviate stress. Of course, there's meditation. Oh, actually, I have a good meditation. I have 2 really good meditations. If you like my voice, if you find my voice too soporific, I will put you to sleep. If you start to doubt yourself, can I just mention it? If you
Yes,
go
of
to my
course.
website, janejacksoncoach.com/meditation, Okay, there are two, they're free, they're just there, you can listen. It's 10 minutes for each one. And one is a really empowering one. So when you have a bit of a wobble, listen to it, and you'll either relax and fall asleep because, you know, the nature of my voice, or else if you listen to the words, you'll know that you are enough, and you know that you've got it within you to succeed. And sometimes we need that, you know, the positive affirmations as well, because your mindset is essential. You know, having a positive mindset is essential when you approach the job search. If you're feeling down on yourself and you think, oh, I'm too old, or I'm never going to get a job, or nobody wants me, well, yeah, then nobody will want you. But if you think, oh, you know what? I'm valuable, I add value, I'm able to solve problems, people will need me, I just need to find the right area. So that is a much better attitude to have.
I really love what you said about creating that structure, because I think that that's where so many of us fall down, or we don't. What I'm trying to say is we don't create a sort of way to monitor what we're doing and to stay accountable to what we're doing. Like, I know at Rachel's List we created a job tracker to
Mhm.
help job seekers track all the jobs that they were applying for, and it's got this interactive dashboard, and you can see where you're at in the job seeking process for different roles and everything. And I think that having something like that, that's actually free to download from the toolkit. So if anyone is interested in that, we'll pop it into the show notes. But I think that kind of thing can keep you accountable and make you can actually see what you're doing, how far you've come in the process, and how many jobs you're actually applying for, and it can keep you motivated.
Mhm.
And because I think not having any kind of, you know, structure can be one big mistake when you're job seeking. But what are some of the other mistakes that you see job seekers make, Jane?
Mm. Well, so many, so many. One thing is trying to do everything yourself on your own in your little bubble is a big mistake, because, you know, we're social beings, and having an accountability buddy would be good. You know, just reach out to a mate and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. I get down on myself sometimes, but I just need someone to G me up. So, you know, could you, you know, send me a text message or just give me a call at a certain time of day, you know, just to make sure that, you know, I'm at it, or else, you know, this is what I plan to do tomorrow. I'll report back to you if you don't mind, and let you know that I've actually done it. Because having accountability makes such a difference. I think this is why people like having coaches,
Yeah.
because, yeah, we can crack the whip and make sure. And I get clients who go, oh, Jane, I'm so, you know, I feel so bad. I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And I'm going, oh, okay, well, you know, if you want to move forward, you need to take action. I can't go to the interview. I can't prepare. I can prepare you for the interview, but I can't go in and do the interview for you. So you need to do the prep, right? And I've told you this is how we're going to do the prep. And there are lots of tools that you can use to help yourself as well. But the biggest mistakes, okay, it's actually it's in my book, Navigating Career Crossroads, that there are 7 deadly mistakes of job seekers. And so the first one is lack of clarity and confidence. So you need
Yeah.
to practice self-care to take care of yourself so that you can build up your confidence. Take the time to, you know, just understand yourself. You need to assess what really makes you tick, because job seekers don't. They often just think, oh, I'm going to apply for a job, any job, and I'm going to send out 100 applications and no one's responding. And so that's wrong. Don't take a scattergun approach, because it's not. Some people say it's a numbers game. It's not a numbers game. It needs to be a focused numbers game. So we want you to make lots of applications, but you want every single application to count. And that means your cover letter, your resume is tweaked for every single role. And you need to have that clarity of purpose so that you know what you're targeting, because you don't want any job. You want a job that, you know, you will be able to really excel in, or at least get up to speed quite quickly in, a job where you're going to make a difference. So build your self-confidence, and then assess what really makes you tick and what you want and what you've got to offer. The next thing is using, big mistake is a generic resume, where you have a resume done. Some people pay a fortune to have the resumes done by someone, but it doesn't even sound like them. That's no point. I help people with resumes, but it's got to be their voice. And especially journalists, you have a voice, so you can write well. So make sure the resume is tailored and the cover letter is tailored for each and every application. Another mistake is that people don't understand what their branding is out in the marketplace. What are people saying? What's your reputation? What do people know about you? What are you putting out there? Because if you don't manage your brand well, it will manage you. So make sure you ask people, how am I perceived in the marketplace? What am I known for? What do you think I'm great at? Tell me how wonderful I am. Okay, tell me where I need to improve. So get some feedback as to, what is that brand that you're putting out there? Oh, what am I up to now? So that's the branding. Oh, okay. And
I think
then,
you're up to 3, yep.
yeah.
4.
Lack of 5, I think now. Yes, but lack of preparation for interviews, for job interviews. That's a big faux pas, because Corn Ferry did a survey a number of years ago of 450 recruiters and asked them what were the fatal flaws and most common flaws that they viewed in interviewees. And they found that number one was lack of preparation, which is unforgivable, because you've got to research the company or research the industry, research the job function, research the people you're going to be working with. Do your research so you know what you're talking about, but also research yourself. What is it you've got to offer? Why should you be considered for that job? So you
Yep.
need to really build yourself up. And so you need to prepare. The second thing is in interviews, big flaw is that people talk too much, because, you're so excited to let people know how amazing you are that you just talk and talk and talk and go completely off the point and don't answer the question. So it's very important to listen. The third fatal flaw is an over-exaggerated sense of self-importance. And usually this happens when people are feeling really insecure and they think they've got to build themselves up. And then they talk a little bit grandiosely. I must realize I'm talking journalists here, so I better use the correct grammar, right? But they oversell, and suddenly you're the guru of the universe. And this, I've only seen this happen a couple of times, and they've actually been with very senior executives who've lost their job title, and they were so used to having the title and the status, and suddenly it was taken away, that they had to really oversell to make themselves feel better. It just gets up people's noses, so not so good. And the final one, and not one that we usually see, but inappropriate dressing or poor grooming. And now with Zoom, even though it might be a video interview, you still need to present yourself as the professional that you are. So be aware of, if it's a Zoom video conference, then make sure the lighting and the audio, it all sounds good and you understand the tech, because there's nothing worse than getting the tech wrong and they can't hear you, and then they just think, well, you don't know how to use basic technology. That's not very good, is it? So you're not keeping up to speed. So make sure that you do that right. And then, so those are the 4 fatal flaws. And then finally, not knowing what you're worth. That's a big thing. Please do your research so people with how many years experience in this size company, in this industry, what is the salary range? Because you may be asked, what are you expecting? So you don't want to undersell or oversell. Let's be realistic. And it's all part of your preparation as well. So those are some of the things that you need to avoid. A bit long-winded, but...
Oh, that's great. Really
Great.
good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great tips. One thing I thought was interesting to discuss is that I think I read something put out by the World Economic Forum, and it said that creativity is going to be the third most important skill for employees by 2020. So that's last year, although 2020 may be blip. And certainly behind problem solving and critical thinking. Do you think that creatives are already one step ahead in this sort of new future, especially when we're looking at things like AI and stuff?
Oh, definitely. Because the thing, just imagine, I love the word imagine. Who would have thought the way things would change so rapidly, 5, 10, 15 years ago? The technology now, it's all because someone was creative, someone had an idea, and someone had the guts to run with it as well.
Mm.
So I think creative professionals, you have a vision. You have a vision. You're able to see what others don't see, and if you don't get too much inside your head and down on yourself, so keep that mindset and stay relaxed, because when you're feeling stressed, creativity just goes out the window, doesn't it?
Yes.
So if you stay true to the professional that you really are, and you're able to imagine the future, and have a look at what the problems are that need solving. That's what they mean by the creativity, is that,
Yeah.
be a problem solver, be a solutions focused professional, where you think, okay, this is the way it is. Does it have to be this way? How could it be done differently? And most employers, they hire for attitude and potential too. And so if you can demonstrate your potential, all you need to do is to convince them, look, this is what I could do with you. I've done this research and I see that your organization is experiencing this. So as a journalist, do your investigation. You're good at this stuff, right? Being a detective, find out what are the projects, what's the direction that the business is going into. And if you're going into, say like, a obvious sort of transition is into corporate communications. If you're going for a comms type role, then what are they experiencing? What are their comms like at the moment? What's wrong with it? What could be better? And then you don't want to step on people's toes, but if you tactfully, mention, oh, I noticed this, and with these changes, this could happen as well. Perhaps the wording would be better this way. Then if you can just demonstrate the value that you bring, that will really put you at least one step ahead of the competition too. But yes, creativity in the new world of work, as they like to call it, is a very good skill to have. But also flexibility and adaptability, okay, being willing to change and not getting stressed when there are changes, because the only constant in life, the only one, is change. I can guarantee one thing in my life, okay, yes, death and taxes, but change will happen.
That's so true. I love what you said about how creativity and problem solving. I think that's something I've really noticed in my work in the past couple of years, and it actually really reminds me of a podcast by Ed Gandia where he talked about how writers were used to just being told what to do and told what to write. But the next level is actually being that problem solver, providing that content strategy, helping companies and small businesses figure out how to, get beyond that problem. And it's something that we might instinctively know what to do, but we think we can't do it, or we feel locked in that other way where we're just told what to do and here's the job, go and do it, sort of thing. So if you can, realize your value in that space, it can really be such a amazing skill to bring to as a freelancer or as a employee, I think.
Yeah, because don't assume that people will see the value. Don't assume that someone has read your resume or looked at your LinkedIn profile in so much depth that they know all about you. They will have sort of glanced over it and they've seen a few keywords that think, oh yeah, that sounds good, let's have a chat. And then they want to find out more about you. So you need to be able to tell them why you deserve to be considered. And to understand also that you understand their business, because that way you'll be able to hit the ground running. And as I say, when it comes to the interviews, it's all about that preparation. The more information you have, the more you can leverage to your own benefit as well. And when you've done a lot of research, it's never going to go to waste. It's knowledge that you'll always have. And, if one company doesn't hire you, maybe the competitor will. And then you've got all that competitive intel that you've already discovered.
Well, you've mentioned a little bit about the future. We've talked a little bit about AI. But are you saying that there's certain technical skills that creatives should be having? I mean, is there anything that we can do as creatives to, I don't know, future-proof our careers?
Please stay up to speed with digital.
Yes.
Everything digital. You know this already. But the thing is that the digital platforms are changing and evolving so much. I mean, I keep scrambling. I mean, and also don't worry about how old you are. I'm 61 now. I'm still learning, and I have got lots of energy. And I think age is never a barrier. Okay, because it doesn't have to be. It is if you think it is. So if there are any mature age journalists who are looking, please get it out of your head that, oh, you know, it's just ageism will rear its ugly head. Yes, it will if you let it. And, you know, market yourself into industries and environments where your maturity will be valued. You know, I'm a
And
coach.
prized.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I
yeah,
love that.
that's right. So just wanted to throw that in because I just finished a webinar that was
I
all
do
about
think that people who are older sometimes feel more stressed, and they will probably face more rejections, and that's harder. And maybe they may be more averse to change if you've been in a job for a long time, particularly when you're talking about some of those newspapers where people were there for a long time, and that can be quite confronting. It's a big change. It's not a little. So embracing technology and embracing new developments along the way, small ones, is much better than having to make a big shift at some point.
Yeah, but it really is hard because I've worked with people who've been in one company for 30 years, and
Oh,
actually I have a good story because there's one gentleman. His name's Russell. Love him. I was working with him in 2001. Okay, when I first started out as a career coach, and I moved from Singapore to Sydney, and he was 52 at the time, and he had grey hair. Okay, and he goes, "Oh, Jane, you know, I've been, you know, in this business," and he was with the public service for so long, and you know, I'm one of the greys, and I'm going, "Oh, okay, well, that's really negative thinking, isn't it? But I'm one of the greys. Am I ever going to, you know, be hired again? What else could I do?" And anyway, fast forward, you know, 20 years, he's now in his late 60s, early 70s. And he, honestly, you can't stop him. He's unbelievable. He embraced networking. He didn't know what networking was. He embraced networking. He reinvented. He set up his own business. He's got all these consulting gigs, you know, coming for him. And he goes, you know, it's just amazing. And what was so nice was after we worked together and he, you know, secured this new position, which was, he had several part-time positions, so he was actually quite happy with that because it was different from what he had before. He said, you know, this networking, it really works. You know, I just talked to a few people and they have all these ideas for me that I hadn't even thought of. And I'm like, oh, that's good, you know, you need to be more social. But he said one of the things that he did was he got the latest laptop. He got the latest phone. So when he'd go in for an interview, he had all, you know, like the right stuff with him. And he was up to speed.
It did make him look up to date then.
Yeah, that's right. He got new glasses because also the physical image is important too. You got to have a decent card and have up-to-date glasses. Don't wear, you know, the old grandfather-looking glasses and all that sort of thing. And so he revamped his image as well and made sure that everything that he was wearing looked pretty spiffy. And he lost a little bit of weight. He looks really fit. He's tall anyway. And I mean, it was really, I'm in so much admiration for him because he thought that he was too old to be hired. And at the time, that's 10 years younger than what I am now. So, you know, it's like, I know we don't need to be put on the scrap heap just because we're older. We need to create our own future as well. But it's not easy. It takes work and it takes support as well to get through it, because doing things on your own, it's a little bit scary. So, you know, get your friends or your family or people who have an air of positivity about them to support you as you go through this. Have I got off track with my answer?
No, I think that's great. No, I think it's really good. Yes.
Got to be careful not to talk too much.
No, that's good. Look, I think, you know, we could talk to you all day, but I really wanted to just get some last words of advice for our listeners, especially those who might be contemplating a career change, maybe a complete career change or a sideways move. What would you tell them?
Okay, first of all, take a step back, breathe. Okay, know that you have stuff to offer. You do. You are sitting on a mountain of value. And sometimes some people might not recognize it, but just because someone doesn't recognize it doesn't mean that it isn't there. So know who you are and what you've got to offer. You need to have that clarity. Once you have that clarity, then your confidence will grow, and then you will be able to market yourself effectively. Honestly, talk to a mentor. Because someone who can just guide you, because you get a better perspective. Don't withdraw into your shell. Even if you don't feel like talking to someone, go for a walk, meet them for a coffee, have a chat. And when you share your problem, it all doesn't seem quite so daunting as well. And of course, reach out to me if I can help. I've got heaps of free resources that you can tap into that you might like. It's all in the Careers
I
Academy.
also liked the thing you mentioned earlier about asking friends and family about, I guess, your superpower or what's really good about you, because sometimes when you're feeling a bit down about yourself, you may not realize what that unique thing you have to offer. And that's what I've heard. So asking 5 friends, what do you think is special about me, or what do I offer? And out of 5 friends, you start to get a consistent theme, and that can help sort of pull you out and see that sort of unique proposition you've got.
Oh,
That's a nice way
absolutely
to
right.
start.
Yeah. And also remember, have that brag box. Okay. Any awards and nice letters and emails and cards that you've had, over the years, keep them and remind yourself, that, yeah, people have appreciated what I do. And make sure that you follow this method. Think about what you've done and what was the positive, tangible result of your efforts. What were the problems that you encountered? What were the actions, specific actions that you took? And what was the end result of those actions? Write them down, because they become your accomplishments and bullet points that you can add into your resume. And a resume that's just responsibility based doesn't make you stand out from the crowd. There needs to be accomplishment based, because that gives you that wow factor, or else superpower, as you like to say.
Accomplishment based. I love that. Okay. Great. Jane, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your tips for journos who might be contemplating a career change. God knows we've all done it. Or being forced into doing it.
Yeah. Well, also you've reinvented, both of you, so well, and you've diversified your skill set, and you've created Rachel's list, and I remember when I first met you, Rachel, it was when I was recruiting, and somehow I don't know how we got in touch with each other, but it was through recruiting. I had a chat with you, and I was so impressed with your attitude, and then somehow we kept in touch, and then you had Rachel's list, and I thought, oh, that's so amazing for creatives, and then got you onto the podcast a number of years later. So I think I've known you for about 10 years now.
I know. And yet we still haven't met in the flesh and had that glass of wine or cup of tea that we talked about.
Well, I want to meet, because, looking on your Zoom background, you're in the Bahamas. So how I'd love to be there.
I wish you could all come and stay in my beach house.
Don't you love green screens and video?
I know. It's beautiful. Oh, goodness. Well, thank you so much again, Jane. It's just been amazing talking to you, and we hope that
I love your positivity and the
me
warmth.
too.
And I think that's really nice, because I think so many people facing sort of career change can get down, and it's really nice to hear all the positive things. And I think finding new industries and that there are so many opportunities out there is a really good thing for all our listeners, and because I think you can get bogged down.
Think of it as a big project.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
This is Project You, the job search. And, when you think of what you're doing as a project, and that there will be a completion and a successful delivery of that project, then that spurs you on, because projects have deadlines. So you need a realistic deadline, and that will keep you going so you don't procrastinate.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Great tip.
Well, thank you, Jane, again. Thank you, everybody. We'll be putting all the details in the show notes that we've talked about today, and we'll also put down all the bits and bobs about how to get in touch with Jane, where to find her. Highly recommend you go and connect with her on LinkedIn, because she's absolutely fabulous and shares a lot of great stuff on there. So, just head to rachelslist.com.au for the show notes, and we will see you all next week. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay,
Thank you,
bye.
Jane. Bye.
Bye.